Hey everyone, Adrienne here. Joining me is one of our 2020 Rising Stars Award winners, Eric Solomon, owner at Night Owls in Houston, Texas. Hey Eric, congratulations.
Hey, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to win this award. I guess I should say.
Yeah, absolutely. You can thank Val Solomon, your co-owner, and also the 2020 Rising Star, or not sorry, Rising Stars Women in Print Award winner for
Yeah,
nominating.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're going to get to know Eric and Night Owls a little bit better and find out why he's deserving of the annual Rising Stars Award. And we'll just get to it. Everyone always has such an interesting answer to this question. How did you enter the screen printing industry?
I feel like our story, and I say our because Val is very much a part of this as well. But we started probably like a lot of other shops where I was in a band. We were friends with a lot of bands, and we started making 1-inch pinback buttons in my bedroom, my parents' house, about 40 minutes away from where I am now. And then from there, we said, this is pretty fun. Let's buy a speedball kit at the hobby store. And we just sort of took off from there. Um, yeah, we started printing band merchandise and local small businesses, much like everybody else. And we really like to joke around that we tend to work harder, not smarter. So we worked really, really hard and continue to do so to sort of get where we are now. But we've never really been afraid of failing or learning about screen printing. And that's been a really big part of our growth over the past couple of years, and just in general, is that we're constantly trying to, especially myself, trying to push what we do here at Night Owls and make it so it's better, more efficient, bring in new ideas, just constantly trying to learn.
Yeah, that's great. If I had a dollar for every time I heard, well, I was in a band.
Right, right.
Are you still in the band?
No, I'm not. I've sort of not necessarily given that up, but the business takes up most of my waking hours. So I really am focused on it, but it's okay. I really like doing what I do, and the fact that I get to create and work with such amazing and talented and creative people. It makes it so it's like I'm not working. I have a hobby that I make a living out of. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love to hear that. It's so much easier to go to work when you're enjoying it and really it's a passion of yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So your nomination form from Val states that you're able to visualize segments of our industry ahead of others. You're pushing your company's boundaries to do things other shops are afraid of, from making your shop 100% water-based to building out an e-commerce and fulfillment department, and you're constantly pushing Night Owls to be the best in the industry. So what motivates you to make this industry and your business better?
First, I didn't know Val said that. That's super nice of her. I don't know. I just think that this is such a large industry with so many different facets, and screen printing is such a versatile medium for so many different areas of everyday life that people don't even necessarily recognize or understand. And so for our small section that we do, there is like a ton of competition. There is like within our shop, within a mile, there's at least 15 other shops that I can name of. So we're in the fourth largest city in the U.S. And so not everyone is going to have as intense competition as we do. But we realized pretty early on that we needed to figure out ways to sort of like distinguish ourselves a little bit, as well as sort of just like make our own path for what we wanted to do. And it goes a little bit back to what I was saying earlier about just constantly trying to push ourselves to learn. And because we're doing that, I think that we've been able to set ourselves apart a little bit more because we're not striving just to get things out the door. We're striving to make things look really good and feel really good. Water-based was a huge part of that. We've been doing it for, I think it'll be 3 years in January, where we've been 100% water-based. And with that, there's a lot of learning, a lot of trial and error, a lot of growing, and it's really pushed our company to be better at what we do, which I think like a lot of the customers that we work with also recognize that, and they recognize that like the output that we're putting out, although it's still traditional screen printing, compared to someone that might be down the street from them that's working with plastisol or isn't spending the time to really like learn or hone the craft. There is, I think, like a difference to people that are really looking for high quality merchandise.
Sure, it's the quality and the quantity that your
Yep,
customers are looking for. Absolutely.
exactly.
Right. Yeah, obviously we mentioned that your shop is 100% water-based. So maybe talk a little bit more about why sustainability is so important to night owls.
Sure. And so water-based and sustainability, I think, are words that get put together pretty often. And truthfully, it's like there is a fraction of what we do that we we kind of lean on the sustainability portion. Really, though, for us and what we've sort of discovered over the past couple of years of doing it, I don't really know if it's that much more sustainable. But what I will say is that it feels a lot better to wear. It's a lot more comfortable. And I think, again, just because that word water is in the title of the ink, that people have that misconception of it being eco-friendly. But I will say the majority of inks that we do work with do have higher like eco-friendly standards than traditional plastisol. Not all of our inks, but a lot of them do. And that makes us feel good, and it makes us feel even better about pushing kind of our prerogative of we're only printing water-based ink. Sustainability is a small part of it. Like I said, it's really the fit and the feel of it. We think that that's like the premium, way to do it. But the fact that the majority of it is more eco-friendly, that's just an added bonus for us.
Sure. Yeah. And just a little bit about the training. Why is that the education? So that's pretty important to you at Night Owls as well.
Yeah, yeah. As I mentioned earlier, going down this path of being a water-based shop and really identifying that, it's really made it so we've had to get better at all of our processes across the board. We have to understand like print technology, physics and chemistry, and that also goes for our ink room and our dark room. We have to understand the chemistry that sort of plays and interplays with all that. Everything from how inks interact with emulsion to how much humidity is in our production area. All of those things sort of like counteract one another and really play into how well the inks are going to work or how well a project is going to kind of pan out. A lot of people don't really do, the deep dives like we've done, and they fail and they walk away from water-based. And we had plenty of those situations as well, but we just kept really like banging our head against the wall until we finally like understood it and it clicked. And now like I feel oftentimes when I talk to people in this industry, I'm such a big proponent of education because like we had to train ourselves and we had to go through classes and really work with our vendors and our suppliers to truly understand what's happening in our little world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very cool. And just so the audience knows, just a little bit about your shop. How many people are there? Typical printing that you do. Typical client.
Sure. So we've been in business for a little over 10 years this year. We have 30 people that work at Night Owls amongst 3 different departments. The biggest department is our screen printing department, and that encompasses everybody from people that work on the production floor to shipping and receiving, darkroom, ink room, all that stuff. We also have a promotional products department. We make and manufacture and source a lot of goods from enamel pins, embroidered patches, cut and sew, things like puzzles and ceramic mugs and everything else that you can think of. And then we have an e-commerce or fulfillment department that we've been running for about 6 years at this point. And so, yeah, altogether it's a little over, I think it's right at 30 actually right now.
Okay. So you started the business in your 20s. What would you say was your biggest challenge so far, and then your greatest professional accomplishment?
Biggest challenge I think is pretty easy. Like as we've grown this business and scaled it over the years, like I really like what I do, but being an owner of a business, you employ other people, other folks, and so like I constantly am pushing myself and trying to like learn how to be a better boss, a better manager, a better leader. That's always been like a really big struggle for me. I'm definitely more of a classic visionary type as opposed to like an integrator. So it's really hard for me to like hold people accountable, and you really need that to scale the business. So that's been like a really big challenge over, I'd say, the past 3 or 4 years, for me personally, running this business, like, and continuing to grow it, is making sure I have like the right people working with me. I think this year we've made a lot of really good progress to put the right people in the right seats, and that's really helped a lot of things within Night Owls, but it's still like a constant learning process. And with COVID, much like everybody else, there's, you have your normal difficulties of running a business, plus like a pandemic on top of it that is affecting every single thing that we do, whether it's supply chain or employees not being able to come into work because they have a slight cold. They don't know if it's a cold or if it's COVID. So that's been like a very, very challenging thing that ties into that. So yeah, that'd be like my biggest challenges. I'm super proud of the fact that like we're a water-based shop, and not only just the water-based, but like doing really complicated prints with water-based and like pulling the applications off really well. So that for me is probably a really like my number one thing I'm like the most proud of in the industry that we've done.
Yeah, absolutely. So any tips for anyone watching who are going to start their own business, or maybe even just getting into the industry, the younger generation, and kind of looking back at where you once were and where you are now?
Sure. I mean, when we started, it was right at that like kind of bridge point to where the internet was just kind of becoming more interactive. I shouldn't say it that way, but like we were just finding like forums and groups to get information. But now, like with these Facebook groups or even like the shirt board, there's in Screen Printing Magazine and stuff, there's so many more avenues to connect with people to where you can get information faster and you can get critiqued on what you're doing faster, and therefore solve your problems quicker as well. We didn't really have that. So we probably didn't know. Now, I've been screen printing since 2004. I would say probably the first 6 years, I didn't really know what like mesh counts were. You know what I mean? So it was like we struggled a lot with very, very rookie mistakes because we didn't know who to ask or like who to talk to. And now that has sort of the avenues of communication have exploded. So I think it's a lot easier to get information. Even starting with like channels like Ryanet or Catspit, we didn't really have free things like that. It was a lot of seminars like from Mark Boudre or like Scott Fresden that we had to like pay for. So now with this like access of information, I think it's a lot easier to start. The only advice I would say is just like get second or like third opinions on everything, because there's a lot of bad information out there as well.
Sure. Yeah, the good and the bad does come with digital, but it is pretty nice that you can just get onto maybe a Facebook group and ask a question, and you'll have a response from most likely someone who knows what they're talking about. Pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And then like I think that at Night Owls we've been really fortunate to align ourselves with like people that have sort of like taken us under their wing, and really mentored us in a lot of different areas, and that's like awesome, having access to people that have so much more knowledge and resources than we do, or maybe not even resources, but people that have been through that same problem or have figured out ways around like fixing something very small or even something very big. That to me is like really amazing that we have a network of people as well that we can sort of chat with about those things.
Right. And what I'm finding is that the younger generation is helping the older generation maybe with things like social media or brand awareness.
Sure.
And then the older generation is like, oh, I've done this for 30 years. Let me help you find the best way to go about this.
Do you find it all that like because we have like a great like Instagram following. We're really active on it, and it's cool to see like a lot of shops interact with us that way. But like I often get hit up from like shop owners that are older than me that are like, how do I get involved with social media? And like, I don't know, it's always such a weird question because it's like, I don't know how to like guide someone that people want to see what you're doing and what you're making, but you have to like display it in a way that makes people want to be interested. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously that goes to show that there are people who aren't as familiar with social media or digital experiences that are reaching out, asking for help. And yeah, I mean, I talk about this a lot, and it's just like kind of being that brand ambassador on your page. So you have to do the work, but then you also have
Yeah,
to be willing to share, behind the scenes, and really sometimes not always give out the secret sauce, but definitely be more involved in that way. I mean, are you finding that everyone's wanting everything from you on Instagram?
you know, we have a couple of like very strange like niches that we sort of excel in here, and I think that that's like helped accelerate our growth as well. And we're connected with people that have large followings, so we kind of like piggyback on that. And so I think that's also why I feel a little strange about giving out advice, because it's like, well, find someone who's popular. Like that's not the best advice. But when it comes to like screen printing processes and stuff, it's not that people really want all the ins and outs of it. You know, I've definitely met a lot of really cool printers just because I stumbled across their page and I'm like, hey, how did you do that? Like, that's awesome. Like, can I ask you, like what your thought process was for this? And so it's like, it's cool because it does make another form of like community. And, even now we follow and communicate with a lot of like peers or colleagues that it's awesome seeing their growth and seeing what they're doing, and also getting a quick snippet of uh, like a shop tour essentially, and being able to pick out like, oh, interesting, they're doing this on press, or they put their screens this way. So when people ask us for that, I'm always more than happy to help. Um, the one thing we run into is because we do print a lot of technical things, I have to sort of monitor what I'm saying, not because I'm afraid of like giving out secrets, but because like I've found that oftentimes people are not really ready to hear what I'm trying to say, and so I have to sort of like meter the information that I'm giving out to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And maybe sometimes that's more of a one-on-one connection that you have with somebody instead of a broader um,
Sure.
message. But yeah, I think that social media being this education tool, networking tool, communication tool, and yeah, I think if people are asking you for advice, then you should be a little flattered, and you should be, willing to give them the tips that you think that work.
Sure.
But honestly, there's so many things that work for different people, and it really depends on who your customer is, who's looking at your page.
Exactly. And that's, again, another thing that goes along with, we have clients that have great following. you know, if I'm getting hit up from Joe's screen printing down the street, they might be going after schools and churches, and that's not really our clientele. So my advice on what works for us isn't necessarily going to translate to that, because if you're going after schools or corporations, you may not want like a crude drawing of like a biker babe drinking beer or something on your page. But for us, like that's exactly what we want to post. That's exactly what like our clients and the people that follow us are interested in seeing. So yeah, it's just a very interesting world that I can't pin down. We're super lucky that we have a super small segment of it that we feel we do well in. But yeah, it's just so strange.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely finding your differentiator and understanding that maybe you can maybe give advice more on like the basics of how to use social media, but know
Sure.
that the content is always going to be different, and you're going to have to, no matter who you are, you're going to have to figure out what works for you.
Right. Right.
Okay. Cool. Well, thanks, Eric, for sharing more about yourself and your business. Any final tips or words of wisdom to our audience?
No, again, thank you for the nomination and for giving me this award. I said it earlier, but I think that screen printing is so versatile and it's so amazing. And I would just say for anybody that like is new, just like keep doing it. Like you'll find your own spot in this industry. It's so big and so expansive that like you can make it work for you in sort of any way you want. So don't give up.
Great advice. So great. Well, you can find more information on Eric and Night Owls on Instagram, like we were talking about, at Night Owls Print. And congratulations, Eric.
Thank you again.